Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Rock Africa Roundtable. We are so excited to be back here with you on the Rock Africa Roundtable. Today, we have a full house, and we are speaking on the topic sexual violence. We would first like to apologize to you if you were on at 2 p.m. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, and we have our co-moderator still, and he is going to be joining us really. So I am Yato McIntosh. I am the president of Kamipa Productions, the home for or the home of Our Rock Africa. We have an amazing panel today, our panelists with experience, lived experiences, and so forth. And we are going to touch base, bring down barriers, talk about what we need to educate people on when it comes to sexual violence. So now we'll start by welcoming you first and foremost and saying thank you for tuning in. And we ask you to share. So if you haven't tagged someone, if you haven't shared, like tag a friend, tag your sister, friend, tag your brother-in-law, tag all of your church members. We need them at the table. Remember your mask. I mean, just go on and just keep tagging and keep sharing. We like you. We love you. Just, continue. Yes, I see those love coming in. Great. So tag people and please that make sure that you keep here. We're going to be an hour show and not too long. So let's go forth and go right into our introduction. We go forth with Ms. Amy Williams, and she is going to start that. We're going to start the introduction from there. And if you have any sound difficulty, please post on the comments. We have people following, and they will notify us as well, and we will adjust accordingly.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Williams. I work as a mental health clinician and I am co-founder of EZAT Youth and Family Services, mental health treatment service provider here in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a wife, a mother of three, and I am really excited to be here to share some professional experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. And we have our co-moderator on, so we'll go right to him.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? My name is Harold John. My company is a Dreamers company, and I specialize in branding and marketing of urban-owned businesses.
I think you were muted for a second there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing it backwards, Yete. You're unmuting and then me?
You're good. Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Wafame Elamine. I am based in Richmond, Virginia. I also bounce between the DC metro area. I am a human rights and social justice advocate. I just really love people, and I'm dedicated my whole life, the rest of my life, to serving communities and underserved communities.
Is it fair to assume I'm next? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. William Meta Sweetie Simmons Sumpon, all the S's in my name. I am a psychologist and a humanitarian and entrepreneur, and I am certainly passionate about the issue that we'll be discussing tonight. It is an honor, and I truly feel blessed to be amongst everyone that's on this panel today.
Awesome. I hope you can hear me now. Can you all hear me? Awesome. Okay. So there was some reason I was pressing the thing and it was still being muted. So the next person is Stan, please. And I think his screen is frozen, so bear with us. Okay, I see him coming off mute now. Yes, please. You can just come off mute. And after you, it will be Bobby and Love.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stanley Jones III. I'm the director of Surrey County Parks and Recreation in Surrey, Virginia. I'm also a martial arts instructor here as well, and it's wonderful to be on this roundtable panel discussion this afternoon. A very needed and excited topic, and so I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bobby Jones. Um, Yeto has brought me on here because I am a survivor of this very topic. I'm also a mother of two. While I'm talking, if you do hear the children, that is why. And so I thank you again, Yeto, for providing this platform for professionals and survivors alike to go ahead and share their experiences with this topic and to kind of enlighten the masses. So thank you so much. Because I am a survivor of this very topic.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Love Wia. I am the producer and writer of the series Daughters in America. I also hold a BS in psychology, and I have my certificate as a qualified mental health professional. And thank you, Matus, for having me here today.
Now you know she knows me well. She says that name. So we go to Tiki. Tiki, you are muted.
Lord have mercy. Again, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Tiki Danki Tundi, and for our viewers, welcome. I'm a retired soldier, and I am a new entrepreneur. My company is gamed on holistic healing, and that also means healing from within. So this is an excellent topic. Thank you, Yeto, for the invitation. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to the round table. Just making sure that I didn't do as I did the last time. All of us have introduced ourselves. Okay, awesome. So welcome everyone. Welcome to our listening audience again. Thank you so much for coming on. We are going to go right into the topic. We are going to start with just setting a frame. What is sexual violence? So I'm going to open this to open the round table so we can just talk about this a little bit. Sometimes people use the term sexual violence and really do not understand what we mean by that. Sometimes people equate sexual violence only to rape. So could we just throw out what are some types of sexual violence? What is sexual violence? And we can just this is a round table, so I'm looking at on my screen, and we're going to just start with Dr. Simmons, and then we're going to just go around the table as well.
Sorry, I was hoping you'd start with someone else. So sexual violence in essence includes a number of different violent acts towards an individual. And so as a psychologist, I was sneaking the fact that it affects them holistically in every aspect of their lives. Okay. I do It's my understanding that we'll be focusing on rape this evening, but when I think of sexual violence, there's a continuum of sexual violence, so to speak, and some of which include sexual assault, incest, something that many Africans can probably relate to, rape, which we'll be spending a lot of our time discussing, child sexual abuse, intimate partner violence, and so forth and so on. So keeping in mind the rest of our group, those are just some of the types, but really in essence, it looks at sexual violence perpetrated on someone that influences them holistically in all aspects of their life.
Awesome. And I know Amy's coming on next. Sexual harassment is definitely one of it. So we just transition to Amy as well.
All right, if I were to define sexual violence, really it's any verbal or emotional or physical attempt that is for the purpose of soliciting a sexually rewarding response. So with that description, it gives you a variety of incidents that could potentially happen that someone may not even really think about, and then you realize, wait, does that make me uncomfortable? What is the motive behind what you're saying to me? Is it to solicit a response that is sexually beneficial to the person? Okay. Does it make the person uncomfortable? So it's not just the perpetrator, it's also the individual that is receiving. So regardless of how you feel about what you may say to me, or how you may behave to me, or how you may touch me or brush against me, if it makes me uncomfortable sexually, you have assaulted me in some sense. And and a lot of times some people don't really say anything about it. But if I could just tie it all in a nutshell, that would be my response.
Well said, Wafame.
Yeah, I would just define sexual violence as, any kind of coercion into performing or receiving sexual acts without consent. I think that's the key component. I think we're going to plan on talking more about that more, but just um, something that's not mutual, not wanted by both parties, or however number of parties there are.
You hit a key point without consent. That invasion of your private space, that invasion of your inner space. You definitely hit a key point with that. And love, please add on to that as well.
Yes, I have to agree with what Wafame said. Definitely any type of sexual contact. And then it goes to a little bit to what Amy said, because she said it doesn't even have to be physical. It could be verbal as well. So as long as that consent is not there, definitely that is sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual violence, however you want to put it.
And you just, we are defining this within the framework, and you can see that we are defining a vast number of things that could be considered sexual violence, from harassment to rape, to everything that falls in between. So sex trafficking, we can have a whole show on sex trafficking and everything that goes on within sex trafficking, everything that goes on with what everything that happens, the forcing them, as in the rape that actually occurs within there, and so forth. And I'm going to transition to my co-moderator if he would like to add anything, and then Tiki as well.
Basically, it's the same. I agree with everybody. It's anything that is done towards somebody that violates, and that was obtained without consent. I apologize because this whole topic, like I thought I would be able to handle it, and as we talk, I will break down because recently something personal happened to me that made me fully understand the scope of how this can affect somebody. And a lot of the time we look at it from the perspective that it's something somebody knowingly do, but you don't pick up the signs. So I recently just had a very personal experience and wish I had to see the effect of somebody going through something like that and how it demolished the person's personality and how I had to actually go through the process of building back up and making them regain themselves. So it's anything that involve a person just losing that consent and doing something that they didn't knowingly know. So a lot of the times it's not physical. It could be mental and it lasts way longer. So I agree with everything that was said prior, but I don't want to tear up. So just give me a little bit. Give me a little bit.
You're,
I'm
you're,
sorry.
you're you're doing fine. You're absolutely doing fine. And Stan and Bobby will get your comments, and then we are transitioning to discussing a little bit more parade.
Well, I have to commend you, HJ. I, you took the words right out of my mouth. In addition to what everybody else has said, it is simply anything that violates your being, your inner peace. And more importantly, we associate violence with a physical act. You mentioned it's a verbal act, it is a mental act, something, anything that is going to disturb you from your God created self, from your inner peace, is a violation of your being. And we see this with narcissistic individuals. They break you down mentally so that you're susceptible to anything that they want to do to you, so that it becomes your fault if you don't do certain things in certain ways. Sexual violence, it is not only a physical act or violence of any nature, it transcends beyond the physical.
That is well said, and we're definitely going to touch on that when we're talking about the survival fight as well. So, Stan, what is your, you come to the table with an interesting perspective as well from the self defense portion. But what do you see? What do you see in your work? How is it rewarding for people who come who may be afraid or who have been victim, how empowering it is for them to receive training from you.
I want to first share. So I have been affected by sexual violence personally over 40 years ago, and I did not realize, that I would be talking about this today. I didn't want to share, and then as I was preparing, as we were, preparing, I thought I had to share. So I was 14, and the person was much older than I was. But I was looking through the notes preparing, and so it happens more than we realize, and it affects us, if not physically, it affects us mentally. Because at a young age, I was 14, so now you're feeling like your self-worth is not there. So you become just a product of someone else's pleasure. And so I wrote in the note that it's important that we talk about it, and so I know we'll get into the self-defense aspect, but it happens even in the workplace. We have seniors that are here. It happens amongst seniors, and this is the I'm so glad that I was invited to this conversation, because this is the healing part of it, is to talk about it. I don't have to be ashamed. I didn't do anything wrong, but this act was done to me. And so now, as I get older, I'm looking at young women as they're just a piece of meat for my pleasure, rather than the human being that God created them to be. That's been 40 some years ago now, but I still rehearse that in my mind. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to what we shall continue to talk about.
Okay, it's my turn.
So also, Bob, yes,
Go ahead, Yeto.
no, Bobby, you go right in.
Okay. I'm very glad that Tiki touched on the narcissistic component of it. And that's the thing that sexual violence and narcissism, we tend not to talk about that within our communities, first of all, because we don't even understand it, a lot of us. Um, while Stan was speaking, and I wanted to be sure I had this clear, um, malignant narcissists, they have a sense of entitlement. They tend to have a sadistic streak where they take pleasure in the suffering of others. Um, this is also, it goes into sexual violence, because the thing is that you can become entangled with these types of people in relationships and you don't even know. And so it goes from a pleasurable experience to suffering. And then when you withdraw your consent during the suffering, then all of a sudden you're wrong. And that's a key component of narcissism. They create a lot of smoke and mirrors around things that are supposed to be pleasurable, such as relationships, sexual things, just different things that are supposed to bring you pleasure, they end up bringing you pain. And that's primarily due to that sadistic streak that they have. And they also have a lack of empathy. and a lack of concern for your fellow man. I have one more thing for sexual violence, a definition that for me, it can also be very spiritual. And that speaks to the component that Harold H.J. was talking about. That is why it demolishes you. Uh, People don't realize, but these types of people, they're actually they take your soul from you when they do things like that, especially within the relationships. And then there's a coercion that happens within families with wives and children. You can become a product of someone else's pleasure, like Stan was talking about. And the thing is that there's a grooming that takes place. That is one of the key things for sexual violence within relationships. You let your guard down just enough, and then the next thing you know, you're in the middle of something that you cannot get out of because you believe that you cannot withdraw consent due to your proximity with that person. So, emotional proximity, physical proximity, you become trapped in something that you think that you have absolutely no escape from. And like I said, marriage is one of those things. You made those vows and it's embarrassing. You believe that you're trapped. And so I will go on in there.
Thank you.
Oh.
We'll transition to it.
All right, so sorry, Jesus, God, this thing really is getting to me. I didn't expect to break down, so I apologize, everybody. So when I was on mute, I was trying to put up a front, but it's really just now going into rape culture, and really just everybody defining that and explaining exactly what rape culture is, so the audience can understand and not misconstrue it as like how the general population. So to give us a better clarity, we're going to go to Dr. Simmons and she can start, and then we'll just go to everybody else just to explain their thoughts on what they think rape culture is.
Thank you so much. Wow. So typically, rape culture really refers to an environment in which rape is prevalent and in which sexual violence, which we described earlier, against women is normalized and excused in the media and in the popular culture. I think that there's a lot of confusion oftentimes when we talk about rape culture. There's this misunderstanding that it references an entire culture in general. I can speak as a Liberian. I think that sometimes when we say rape culture, we think that we're saying our culture itself is rape. So let me just clarify a few things. When we talk about culture, what we're talking about here is we are talking about beliefs. We're talking about, practices, attitudes, social norms, values that is common to a group, a community, or an organization. That is culture. When we say rape culture, we're saying it's a culture where, rape is prevalent. And as we know, it's prevalent both here, but it's also prevalent in Liberia, I'm going to reference, and in different parts of Africa. And it's normalized. So we make up excuses as to, oh, well, it's boys being boys, men being men, all of those things. So that is, in essence, just really differentiating between culture versus rape culture. What does a rape culture look like? There are a few things that I want to highlight, and then I'll step back so that others can step in. Rape culture is objectification of women. Catcalling. I was in Liberia recently on a medical mission trip, and they're doing this new thing now. It sounds like, for those that are familiar with case meat, I don't know if y'all remember what that is, but it sounds more like a kind of sound, and it's like a thing. Here we just like, yo, what's up? I always share the experience of like my husband can go out running, but I usually don't run out. I run in the gym, because of the fact that while running, there's all of this, yeah, girl, let me run with you. Look at that. Just this discomfort that comes along with it. That's that objectification of women. We see it in pop culture a lot. And also just glamorizing sexual violence on a movie. The person's like doing their thing, and we think it's beautiful, and we're supposed to be turned on by it somehow. The other thing, that's a whole nother subject, is this whole idea of grooming. Again, rape culture, start young, start them young, slowly ease your way in. And then lack of consent, which I won't get into because I know we're going to talk about that, I believe, a little bit later in the show, but the whole issue of consent. And ultimately what it boils down to is a disregard of generally of women's rights and their safety. So that is just the foundation for culture versus rape culture.
Thank you for that. Wafame, you can follow up.
Yeah, and I think I also want to kind of tie into the idea of how cultural and like values and things that are typically normalized within different societies and communities. You know, I happen to be Sudanese American, and there's specific topics that are just like really taboo that we just don't talk about. I'm also Muslim, so you know, sex happens to be a really big one of those. So it's just one of those things that's like out of sight, out of mind, and if it does happen and someone is violated or raped or um, it's this concept of like it's just often really quickly like pushed to the side, right? It's not always yes. And I think one thing that's really common within rape culture is victim blaming. You know, I think it's very quick to say, at least I've seen historically, or just I mean, rape culture is definitely targeted more towards women, but I think that there are men who are also impacted by it because for some reason people think that like men can't get sexually assaulted and that it's more prominent in for women. But yeah, I think that that's something that I've always thought about is, you know, how these practices of, you know, are women more oppressed generally speaking, does that definitely ties directly into the demoralization of like the human body in general. You know, like people just don't value other people's bodies and space as a result of maybe their day-to-day practices and ordeals and whatever that may be.
Um, Thank you for that. Um, it's crazy because you're bringing up the subject of how a lot of the times as men we don't see how we develop into that culture and some of the things we're exposed to. And even me coming from Liberia, I never realized, like, especially my sexual appetite. Um, it's ridiculous. You never realize how you yourself you was exposed to things you shouldn't have been exposed to at a young age. So it's one of the things where I remember, and it's crazy. Then after that, we will go into Tiki, who will now probably just talk more from just a spiritual sense. But me as a person, I remember 2016, 2017, I had to go through this whole actualizing period to where I had to rediscover myself because I never realized that I didn't, even though I respected women, I respected them from the perspective of my mother and my aunt. But the true understanding of being faithful and things like that, I didn't understand that fully until 2016 when I had to really go back within myself and visit how sex was introduced to me at a young age. So I could go back as far as 4 years old. I've been in rooms seeing this and experiencing a whole bunch of variations of things that just sex was just another thing that you just do just to entertain yourself. It ain't have nothing of value. So you didn't have to do no commitment and stuff like that. So definitely as a male, I could relate to what you said. So Tiki, you could take over. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, AJ, and our speakers. You guys have made a whole list of things, but to me, I think before we talk about anything cultural or as it may pertains, I think there is a lack of God. When God is removed or not introduced, then we see a breakdown of family units. And that is where these things would stem from, in my perspective. A family unit would the Bible says, train a child in a manner that when they grow, they shall not depart from it. But if our families are introducing and or their ignorance is allowing us to be introduced to sexual acts at such a young age. I forget which one of you ladies mentioned um, uh, um, spiritual effect. That was you, Bobby. Spiritual effects. This is where soul ties are created. When soul ties are created, it's like having sex with multiple people and not knowing the effects of it. When you are broken down from within and on a spiritual level, the effects are ripple. They cause these chain effects, and now it's like hurt people hurting people. We create a society where we are broken, we are empty, and we try to fill ourselves with these sexual acts that don't do the job. So my idea, or my thoughts on this is, we need a place of healing, of authenticity. That is, when we understand what is wrong with us, then you ask yourself, which is where I stand lately. How am I showing up? How am I contributing to this aspect? Which is where, HJ, your comment comes in very handy. When you realize that you are part of the problem, and I know that may be problematic to comprehend, but there are certain things that we do as individuals that we may not necessarily figure out that we are causing the issues, but we may be part of the problem. But we too can be part of the solutions. Um, it When we understand that self-value, that self-care, that self-knowledge, the breakdown of what is happening and how it is, we are passing it down from generation to generation, I think then we would be better able to solve such a problem.
Thank you so much for that. So yeah, you can go ahead
Yeah,
and
so
say
I
anything
just
you
want
want to
to
say.
piggyback on what is being said a lot around the table about rape culture, and just looking at where we find rape culture. We find rape culture within our society. We find rape culture within our institutions. In certain workplaces, you have rape culture. We have seen where you have a whole organization has to go through a procedure of grievance that relates to sexual violence or even rape specifically. So sexual violence as harassment and everything else, but just framing it in the form of rape here. So we tend to find it in our religious institutions. We tend to find it in all places as well. But what I think Tiki just touched base on is the fact that the understanding of this is going to shift dynamics, right? So if we can understand what that it truly exists, then we are able to sorry, if we can understand that it truly exists, then we are able to start targeting that. Okay, you know what, we do have rape culture within, we are facing, we are facing this situation. Someone else, I think it was Wafame, that actually pointed out, boys do get raped too. Boys do have incidents of sexual violence as well. We can even, it's so to the point where we cannot even document how many of those we see because of the culture in a way, right? So boys don't cry. So that's part of being the problem that Tiki was saying. Boys are not supposed to cry. Boys are not supposed to say what they're feeling. Boys are not. So guess what? They grow up being so macho, and they do not even step up to the plate to say, I have gone and experienced this. And sometimes you see those victims become perpetrators because they haven't really dealt with the trauma of that as well. So we see your rape culture exists in Liberia. That I'm from Liberia. I'm going to point it out. There's this whole discussion about we are bringing our country down, and I know we are going to. I don't know who's going next. I saw it's just coming, but love had a post on her page the other day, and someone was actually attacking us from speaking up and saying that this is wrong, right? This you're saying, and this is wrong, and you're saying what you're painting Africa wrong. We're not painting Africa wrong. And that whole comment about you are in a strange land, so you don't have a voice, get over it. All of us have voices, no matter where we stand. We are just as much. I'm going to speak to, because that was a Liberian who made that comment. I am just as much Liberian as you are. And as I said on that post, I probably even contribute more than you do. Not because I don't post it on my Facebook page 50 times a day that I give a peanut to someone. So let's just set that in place and know that conversations like these, although it's happening across the ocean, it's actually changing the narrative of what is happening on the ground, on the continent, and also here within the Black community, in Black religious settings, and so forth. So I just wanted to add that point before. I'm sorry, I'm gonna like get out of the way and go to the next person, but I just really wanted to add that point about rape culture.
Thank you, Ye. We saw the compassion in what you were saying. So the next person, which is actually funny, is Love. So Love, you could actually take over
If I may, now I know social attitudes has a huge impact on rape culture. Yato had mentioned how, how we can go about dealing with rape culture. And honestly, it's going to have to, I believe, it's going to have to come down to society looking in the mirror and seeing that there is a problem. But majority of the time, many people are not willing to even admit that there's a problem. And we saw that when I posted, like Yato was just saying, when I posted on my page, many people are not willing to admit that there's a problem. They rather find excuses to minimize, that there is a rape culture. They might try to justify that there is a rape culture because other countries have rape cultures. But what they're not understanding is, in order for us to fix the issue, we first need to look in the mirror and we need to be real with ourselves. And we need to say, yes, there is an issue and it starts with me. And how can I fix it? For example, when I was visiting back home in Liberia, I was at a party and I noticed that young girls, little girls, were being encouraged to dance. Very sexual, at least to me, it seemed very sexual. And it almost was like stripper dancing type of thing. And I'm like, what? And they were tipping the girls and there were grown men around, but it was normal, which goes back to the definition of rape culture, the normalization. So how is that going to change? Being that it's social attitudes, we have to change our mindset and we have to change basically what we encourage from children, because that is not okay. And they were telling me it was okay, and I'm like, no, that is not okay. And they're saying, oh, you American people. No, it's not you American people. That's not okay. She's 8. She should not be shaking her butt on the floor where there are grown men around. But those grown men will have to look in the mirror and say, okay, there's a problem. I have a problem because I should not be allowing this to happen. And they're not willing to do that. And my Yeto had mentioned to me, she said something about, I can't remember, Yeto, if you said pride or if you said ego, but they kind of go hand in hand. So
They do.
okay.
They do.
I believe, honestly, putting that to the side, because us Africans, us Black folks, we have a lot of pride. So maybe putting that to the side so that we are able to really tackle the issue that's present.
Thank you. That's just you're a good one, Love. At 8, she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have been there. We would have. I probably would have been in one of those to have gotten in good trouble because of my mouth. But I kind of want to touch on families, because I believe this whole idea and this whole concept of rape culture, it really starts from the family dynamic. You have children being groomed to not have a voice. And to talk about the fact that, in my opinion, that rape culture elevates sexual violence, you have to look at the family dynamic. You have to look at, the mom, the dad, almost sort of like doing a genogram of a particular family history to see how one thinks, how one reacts, and why they do and say what they do. A lot of families are not doing a lot of advocacy that's needed. They're not doing a lot of training that's needed. I'm a mother of 3. My 6-year-old knows what's appropriate and not appropriate. You cannot sit on a man's lap. That's not your father. Okay, so it's sort of those types of things that grooming that needs to take place in the context of the family, in the context of the home. Because what happens is the lack of voice in most of these families, in most of these communities, further elevate the increase of sexual violence. Uncle did this to me, and I said it to my mom, and my mom says, you should never voice that out. Don't ever say that again. Don't ever speak of it. Don't ever say anything about it. This is what happens. This is the type of grooming that happens in African cultures. I'm a Sierra Leonean, born and raised. Living outside of the country doesn't make me any less of a Sierra Leonean. However, these things are prevalent there. They are. And they cannot say anything. You have stepfathers molesting children in the home. And because there's a lack of voice, there's a re-traumatization that occurs over and over and over again. And what does that do? That births perpetrators in the event that it's a boy. Because what happens for a boy? He doesn't speak up. He grows to, develop some kind of a manhood, macho tolerance to this. And then you find boys perpetrating against girls or against other boys. We don't want to talk about that, but it happens. I've had many of those individuals on my caseload. And why is that? Because they have been groomed. This is what I knew. Just about almost every man who has molested another have been molested themselves or have been previewed to pornographic material at such a young age that they're not able, their prefrontal cortex has not developed. They're not able to master or to develop the type of social abilities that are needed, or how to interact. It's not there. And so what happens? They offend against other people. This is happening in our communities. So it starts from the family dynamic. I think it's high time that you mothers, you fathers, you uncles, you aunties, you need to start educating your children on what is appropriate. It does something to a child when they come to you and they tell you, okay, that this has happened to me. And then you tell them, you should never talk about this again. We don't talk about that. It breaks them down. It further violates them. It ruins them spiritually, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, you name it. It creates a level of breakdown. And then we have individuals with mood disorders running around in the streets, individuals with depression, and you name it, it's there. They are traumatized. So I can go on, but I won't because of time. But I just wanted to kind of plant that bug in the ear that it truly starts from families, okay? From families into communities, from communities into the world at large. It starts from your small community to your church community to your mosque community, okay, to your workplace. You name it, it is prevalent everywhere. All you got to do is turn around and see. And the fact that some of us see it and don't say anything, it makes us contributors to the problem.
Thank you. I would just add a little bit on, and then we're going to move to the next subject. But one of the things that I really want to touch on is when you just look at it, this is the victim, this is society. It's always a medium, neither it be family when you look at the family dynamics, but one of the most influential aspects of our life is the media. And those platforms that are created to actually market to us. So a lot of the times, those influences, we as individuals that's going to hear what we're doing right now, I really feel we're planting the seed to try to transition it into change. Because one of the things is, even from my end, noticing somebody so close to you being sexually abused, and you're not even noticing it for over 10 years. I understand exactly what you're saying. And what we're moving on to next is consent. Um, and Dr. Simmons, I know you have a lot to say about that. So we're going to give you the floor to really just start off, just discussing with the audience what consent is. Because a lot of people don't realize how they may felt that they give consent, but it was manipulated into actually giving consent. So you can take over that.
There were just some really excellent points that were brought up that I would like to speak to very quickly. I think Love brought up the point, and maybe you to piggyback off of that, where sometimes when we try to talk about the issue of rape, our own people, in this case, I'll use Liberians, they may say, oh, you're bringing your westernized idea and kind of like inserting it into our, like our cultural norms. And that's so wrong, because ultimately, I think it was Jitsu that said this, and Love as well. I'm just as Liberian as somebody who lives in Liberia, and we don't have to go into any details about, who does more of that and the other. But at the end of the day, our people, it's about a cognitive shift. Like, they really need to change their mindset about certain things. So I do think we have a voice, equally so than a Liberian that stays in Liberia. But oftentimes the pushback that I get is, oh, maybe it's just the American way of thinking about things. That why you bringing it on this IM. So it's like, okay, you bring your westernized idea, right? The other thing is, regarding the family dynamic, I think it was Amy that brought that up. Oh my goodness, that's such an important point. When I was in Liberia, one of the most touching experiences I had was when we went to Liberia on a medical mission trip. I think this was our 2013 or maybe 2016 trip. We're there, and long story short, it was a 7-year-old rape victim. I've never seen so much profuse bleeding in my life. It was devastating. I broke down. I'm like, if you'll notice, I usually have a lot of energy. I kind of have to shield myself in this conversation. So there's a little bit of a blankness to me today, because it's such a sensitive topic. I kind of slightly have to dissociate for a number of reasons. But I was just an emotional wreck on that day. And I'm talking to, I'm talking to the nurses about this. They briefed me on what was happening, because I was in the middle of a workshop when they had to cut it so that they can attend to this woman. And so this young girl, rather, they tell me that the 7-year-old girl, she just got raped by a 50-something-year-old neighbor. And it, in a bad way. I don't want to get too graphic. It was just in a bad way. So I'm sitting there, I go in, and I want to talk to the little girl. And I go in, and I see her grandmom is next to her. And she slapped her. I'm going to go into my Liberian. She said, hey, I told you not to go in that man yard. I was saying, you're just going play in the yard. And like, my blood was boiling. And it's like this combination between being respectful of my elder and wanting to like do something not very Christian like. So I was just like so mad, because it's this re-traumatization and this re-victimization of a young girl. This is what a 7-year-old child does. They play in their neighbor's yard. It's not like he had a fence. You know what I mean? It's a wide open space. So what about that would say into a man's mind, 50-something-year-old man, this is a good time to rape this child and rob her of everything that she could have potentially, had lined up for her future. In essence, what he did was really, he took her ability to even bear kids, because she was damaged. She's damaged, period. You know what I mean? It's so horrible. And to the piece about family, the family support wasn't there. This grandma was blaming her, slapping her. She's already in pain. Then you're beating her in a hospital bed as she's bleeding. You know what I mean? And then to make matters worse, I said, well, where's the guy? And they said, oh, the community right now, they took him to the sorry if we have a hybrid audience. I hope y'all can understand my mix. But they took him to the police station, and people were like, but the community is saying they will just let him go. So let him go and be out in the street so that he can perpetrate this act on another young girl. It makes absolutely no sense. But this is what happened when I think it was Ms. Tiki or Montiki that said, God is not at the center. We have no community support, and we have no family structure in place. And this is just like that story by itself just kind of captured a lot of what was discussed. So I just thought I should share it.
Thank you so much. And then Liberian accent, I didn't expect that. That was actually Dan, it's actually waiting for you.
And I think we have a little technical issue with Ishay. So we were transitioning over to Stan's comment. So you were breaking up a, a, lot, Ishay.
So it's my comment, yes. So the consent part is, I want to back up to the culture if I can. So it happens amongst men. It happens amongst boys. And I, like I said earlier, I was a victim of that. And um fear comes in. You feel like this is not supposed to happen. And what I can remember as a child, if rape happened, it happened the other way. It was men against women and not women against men. So you're afraid, and you go for years. And I'm sitting here thinking, while you all are talking, I still don't think I've ever said anything to my parents about this. But I probably will. They're 80 years old, so I can still just share that they didn't do anything, and that's the main part. But so the consent part, I think I had to step off right quick. So the consent part, if it's not there, we teach in our martial arts class that you tell someone, don't put your hands on me again, or don't say that. I don't appreciate you saying that. And I'm not the smallest of guys. I've never been in a fight, but there are times that people try us. And so I've had to tell someone, you know this is the last warning. Do not put your hands on me again. Now, once somebody puts their hands on you, that second time or whatever, you can do. I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. Okay. So if they put their hands on me, I'm going to break fingers. I'm going to bash heads in. I know this is live, so we don't get that graphic, but I carry my knife with me to church and everywhere. I have 3 girls, and I teach my daughters, if you have to stick this knife in them, don't just stick it in them, stick it in them and twist it. Because when you twist it, it doesn't heal up that fast. I know that's kind of graphic. But for those of y'all that don't carry knives, am I answering the question? Yes. For those of y'all that don't carry knives, this is called a kubaton. Something so small. I had to write the spelling of it. Let me make sure so I can give you all the spelling. And you can, and what I'm going to actually do for everybody that's on the panel today, I'm going to get you one of these, and we're going to do a self-defense class for you all. So it's spelled Kubotan. Let me tell you, and I carry this on my keychain. All right. This is my little key for my car. I carry this, and because some people are immune to mace. And now everybody's wearing masks. So if I have a mask on, mace isn't going to get where it needs to get, right? But this right here, I can't, don't laugh at me, Miss Kiki. This right here goes on your keychain, and you carry, when you have your keys, you carry your keys out in your car, and you see this right here. This doesn't take much. I can hit you anywhere on your body, and if you're holding on to me, you are going to turn me loose. Let me tell you the points that you can hit. The groin, I wrote them down so I don't miss any. The groin, the stomach, the throat, the eye, arms, shin, hip bone, collarbone, ankle, and kneecap. I know most of us in here probably stomped our toe at one point or another. If you hit somebody in this and their toe, right? Because look at this. This person has they violated you. They did not get permission, so they're in violation. One of my parents of one of my students works at a grocery store and a convenience store, and she had a young man to touch her inappropriately. She told him, do not touch me again. He touched her again. She had her Kubotan in her hand. She turned around and hit him in his shoulder right there. And he was about to have a fit. She said he fell back and said, what in the world did you hit me with? And she told him, I told you, do not touch me again. And so it works. It works when I do demonstrations. It's always the big guy in the class. Oh, that little bitty thing isn't going to hurt. And so I use them as a demonstration, and I tell them to put me in the headlock or something and do it real good. And when I put this in that pressure point on their inner thigh, I don't hit them with it. I just push it in. Trust me when I tell you, they will release you. All of you all need to have this on your keychain. If you do, it is legal. It's not, I won't tell you a whole lot that's not illegal. It's legal. And this is what I think. If somebody puts their hands on me, by any means necessary, I have to get them off, And so, yes, I carry this. You all will have one. And I mean, tell it to the judge. You had no, this is because look, this is our body. This is my body. Okay. So you have to treat my body like it's my body, not like it's yours, like it's mine, because people don't respect their own bodies. So if I don't want you to touch me, guess what? No means no. And if you don't understand no, put your little hands on me. And when we break those fingers, then you'll understand what I was talking about. I hope I wasn't too graphic, but I tell my daughters that. If a guy puts his hands on you and you thump him upside the head, he got what he got. I mean, and we'll go to court. We can try to get the funds to take it, because if somebody grabs you inappropriately, because this world is crazy. We don't have to even go into that. People are crazy. And so if people put their hands on you, you have the rest of your life to do whatever you got to do to get away. And if you don't get away, that could be the rest of your life. And so you all will get these. And it was designed by a little lady. She was a police officer in LA in the 70s, and they needed something that could bring down suspects rather than a big. You don't need anything big, because I don't want you to see it coming. If you put your hands on me, you're not going to see it coming. You're going to wake up. I always say wake up dead, but I don't want to kill anybody. But you're going to wake up looking at the sky like, what in the world happened to me? You put your hands on me and I told you not to. Give them that warning first, because cameras are everywhere. So they can say, hey, don't put your hands on me no more. And when they put their hands on you again, you don't have to go in your purse to get your stun gun, your 357 Magnum, whatever you carry. You got your Kubaton right there on your keychain. Work it, girl. And you too, Miss Howard, work it, because men grab men. So if they grab me, they'll only grab me once. Work it. All right, I'm finished.
I think that we're
Yeah.
lifetime. Tell it to the judge. Tell it to the judge. I think we need that training on the continent. We need to start teaching little 5-year-old girls how to break down 57 and 60-year-old men. We definitely need that as well on the continent. I just had to add my 2 cents. I know we are coming to the end of the hour here. It has been good. Thank you so much, Stan, for agreeing to give us that and do a self-defense and with us as well. We appreciate it. I know there's feedback. Maybe somebody's not on mute, so I know there's a little bit of feedback. So okay, so I was just gonna say, like, thank you so much for even adding that self-defense point there, and it speaks to even our culture. We think that we should not equip women, for instance, to fight back. It is part of accepting a rape culture. If you watch this video and watch Stan's comment and say, "Why are we gonna teach little girls that?" or "Why are we gonna teach little boys that?" It is to the point where we have to do several education things. Self-defense is one of it. Teaching the family dynamics, teaching from within the family is one of them. Teaching within our school systems, actually one of them. I work in the public health sector, and we have a whole a program targeting campuses, because we need to shift the dynamics when it comes to rape culture. We need people to understand, even with consent, which we are going to talk about a little bit more next time when we are on the roundtable. But even with consent, people do not understand consent as a whole. They don't understand consent. They don't understand the meaning of consent. And so we're going to wrap up right now. And I'm so sorry to our listeners, but we have part 2 to the sexual violence topic. We are going to be back 2 Saturdays from now. So that is what, the 15th? We're going to be back, and we're going to go into consent, and we are going to also discuss the survivors fight as well, where a lot of topic is going to come on when we talk about the trauma and the impact and so forth. So thanks for listening. I'm going to just send it to everyone right now around the table. If you have anything to add or say, please do that so we can wrap up for our listening audience. Wafame?
Okay, so I'm going to try and do this quickly so everyone can get their point in, but just kind of tying into the family dynamics, I think that we're at a very critical point in the world where we're trying to break so many generational curses. you know, so many of them. And one of the biggest ones I think on this topic is unlearning we have to like respect our bodies first, and just like unlearning the idea that you can't talk about sexual assault, and you can't, like, it's normal to talk about sex. It's normal for it to be like, you know, in your space. I know, if you guys are followers of any book or whatever religion you follow, that it's a common theme to talk about, like, abstain from sex, don't talk about it. And people just go their whole lives not knowing about it. And then I know within my community, a lot of women, when they end up getting married, they just are scared because they've been told their whole lives that it's a bad thing, like, don't do it. And then once they're in that position, it's just like so much worse. And we just have to set new standards, you know, going off of the idea of family dynamics. Kids feel when things are wrong. We're the ones who tell them that wrong things are okay. Adults are the ones who instill that, you know. Kids they walk around innocent. And you know, we talking earlier, I don't remember who said it, but this has been such a stimulating conversation. I'm just like internalizing it all so much. It's, you know, that innocence was, I think it was you, Dr. Simmons, the innocence was taken away, and the virtue that we are taught to preserve in our books or spirituality or just in life in general is just, it's just stripped away. But yeah, I think it might be, let me see, I'm going to go through some of these points. There's so many of them. All right. All in all, we have to, if we can't fix it for our generations and the people in our peer groups and our colleagues, we have to set a new standard for the kids. We have to set a new standard for the young leaders who are going to be coming after us, who are the ones who are going to say, actually, you guys messed up. It's our turn now. Take a back seat, right? But in order to do that, we have to lead by example and say, we're going to sit down now and we're going to tell you what we've done wrong and what we've messed up in the world. And you teach us how to fix it. Because we have the skills and expertise. And I think on the idea of sexual violence, like, I worked in HIV prevention, I worked in STI prevention. So when I walk into the spaces in my communities talking confidently, very confidently about the importance of, like, go get tested. Know your, even if you're not allowed to, or it's not wrong, it's wrong to know your health. Like, all of these things you can be impacted long-term. But that's all I'm going to say. No more victim blaming. Set a new standard, unlearn and relearn the things that, like, are spiritually and, like, on the level of humanity, right? That's all.
This has been such a powerful experience, and I do want to just thank all the panelists. Wow, such incredible insight, and there's just a lot to be said, but I want to end with a quote. Since you mentioned victim blaming way for May rather, there's a quote that I really love. Is by Darlene Umay, and she said, "People may not realize the damage that they're doing by placing the blame on the victim, but that doesn't lessen the damage that they cause by doing it anyhow." And I think that's such an incredible point, because a lot of times when it comes to the issue of rape, you know, there's this whole idea of, did it really happen? But, or, you know, in the case of the grandmother, it's your fault for playing in his yard. You know, that damage is going to resound in that little girl's head as she grows up. But this is a profound issue. This is an entire series, to be quite honest with you, because it's too rich we'll do it in injustice in one session. But I'm honored, I'm blessed to just be a part of this, and let's continue to have this conversation, because it does set the atmosphere in which healing can take place. Thank you.
Thank you again, Matus, for having me. Thank you so much. I really, man, this was very powerful, and it's very much needed. I will say that it is my hope that we will all continue to talk about it, even when we're told to stop talking about it, because we're not in Liberia or in Sierra Leone or in Sudan, and we should focus on what is going on in America. No, no. We need to keep talking about it. We need to keep making them uncomfortable because it needs to change.
Okay. All right. One thing we need to break is silence. Stan said it best. Women, I'm going to speak to women and children, because men, once they become men, they almost 100% know that it is their body. As boys, you may not know. Women, this is your body. Children, this is your body. Wives, this is your body. Sisters, this is your body. Brothers, this is your body. Nephews, this is your body. Nieces, this is your body. Sunday school children, this is your body. Students, this is your body. Club members, this is your body. Everyone, it's your body. This is your body. You don't need a court of law to tell you that. I don't care what case you lose. You talking to somebody that lost one. You talking to somebody that didn't bring another case that she should have brought. Because I'll never lose when it comes to my body. The court don't want to listen to you. I understand. You protect yourself. Understand. You own your body. I don't care who doesn't listen. This is from a survivor. Everything don't have to go to court. You understand what Stan said? If you can take it there, take it there. But trust me, I've been around plenty of women who couldn't. But you take back your own power. Everybody I listed, take back your own power. Do you know it took me hours to be able to get on here? Silence, break it. You don't need a piece of paper to tell you that you weren't wrong, that you were the victim. But Bobby is telling you you are a survivor. They can't blame survivors. All they do is do what we're doing here. Put them on the stage. Welcome. Speak and be heard.
I think you just have everybody tearing eye to the plane. I don't know who's going next after, but it is definitely your body. And I want to just say to every survivor out there, I don't call you victims. I do know there are people who are accused falsely. We know that people are accused falsely. And we also know that people end up in prison systems and get raped as well, even though they are falsely accused. I understand that fully. So this is not for those people. We are not going to re-victimize you here too as well. But to those who were victimized by someone truly, and you find yourself in a situation where you're struggling, we're not going to leave this life without saying seek help. Seek help. You cannot watch this show and crawl up in your room. That's not the purpose for the round table. The purpose for it is for you to know that what was done to you was not right. What was done to you was illegal. What was done to you was just immoral. What was done to you was not your fault. So please, if you are in an environment where you have access to counselors, even if you are in an environment where there are church counselors or religious counselors of everywhere else, I know sometimes that can be a problem too because they sweep it under the rug. But even if it's within, if you're in an environment where you do not have access to care to get that, make that your agenda to make sure that you do connect with a counselor. And you have organizations, look for organizations dealing with rape, reach out to them and make sure you get the help. Look up organizations dealing with intimate partner violence, domestic violence. Look up organizations dealing with sexual harassment and get the help you need. You do not have to struggle in pain for the rest of your life. It's absolutely wrong for you to carry a burden that someone else should be carrying. So at this time, I lost track of who was next. So I'm going to turn it over to HJ because I was like crying. And I'm just going to turn over to him.
So, can everybody hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can go real quick
Okay.
if it's okay.
Um,
And the letter of it being, can you hear me? Did you say okay? Sorry. You can, okay. In the light of it being our bodies, it was just one thing that was in my heart that I really wanted to talk about when it comes to consent. And I'm just going to read it out to you guys, knowing that consent is never implied, ever. There is absolutely no circumstance, no situation where consent can ever be implied. What consent is, however, it is clear. Consent, being clear means it is active. It is coherent, meaning people that are incapacitated by drugs or alcohol or are disabled due to a cognitive deficit or intellectual disability, they are not able to consent. So if the consent that you're receiving from a person is not coherent, you do not have consent. Consent is willing under pressure, and it's never for the purposes of getting some kind of gain. It is purely willing. And lastly, consent is ongoing. It must be granted every time. I said yes a second ago. I said no this second. It doesn't mean you still have it. So it is my body, it is never implied. Don't let anyone cause you to believe that, oh, I thought, no. You don't get to think consent is not implied, at least not mine, and definitely not yours.
Definitely, Stan.
Yes, this has been great. Thank you, Bobby, for writing that poem. At the end, I was thinking about that when you said, nobody has the right to my body. And if someone should put their hands on you, you have the right. Again, I said it earlier, you'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. You don't need much to get their hands off you. And this is life. And so I think we should teach this as young as they can walk. My grandson will be 3 in September, and he will be in my self-defense class because I'm teaching him that, your body, and this is your body and your life. So thank you all for allowing me to be a part. And I know that this is going to help somebody. I look forward to round 2.
Awesome, Tiki.
Uh, Thank you, everyone. Your inputs have been invaluable. I still believe that we will change a society when we start changing our individual minds. For brokenness breeds emptiness, and you are only as authentic. You are only as authentic as your vulnerabilities allow you to be. But as we look at the grand scheme of things, I posted a video on my page the other day where it showed Black men. One man had 23 children, 28 children with 16 different women. There is no possible way he can be at every child's life. And therefore, we are creating brokenness and emptiness and perpetuating this cycle. On the other side, we are also creating an environment where we're allowing our children to grow up with a mentality that says, if I want attention, I have to do X, Y, and Z. Thus, this hypersexuality of our society. And or on the other side, broken individuals, broken children with self esteem issues, myself included. Hello, we are growing up, and now we grow up into environments where we have all these barriers and obstacles to climb on. There's change is only going to come when you, the individual, rise up. As Ms. Bobby said, it has taken her years to get to this level, and removing herself from such a situation. Why did it have to get to that level? Because there was a breakdown as a child. And now we have grown up with this mentality that says, if I want something, I have to do X, Y, and Z, forgetting our God-given wealth of self. When we have God in us, we understand that He is love. And when you have love, nobody can violate your being, your body, enter your space without permission. Now we have to have classes where it teaches us how to unlearn things that we should have learned. But now, as we go forth and we are teaching our children how to understand themselves first, and how they are showing up, and what is supposed to be, how to love themselves without taking from another. Because then we see this crab in a bucket idea. If I have to bring somebody down in order to elevate myself. No, we can rise together. We can be strong together. Then we shall create a stronger society, a stronger community where love is spread. But when we are all in a mental state of me, myself, and I, we forget about the community that we are creating. The me, myself, and the selfishness of self brings about a topic like this. But then for a generation that is coming, we have to teach ourselves. We have to teach our young men, our young women. We mentioned all of how rape and instigating this in young boys. But we forget that some women also practice this. That when they use power, they use your authority to get what you want. That is sexual assault. That can be sexual and mental, emotional, and physical assault all in one. Women do this as well. But when the individual is whole, when there is love, comfort, peace in the individual, then we don't have to worry about this. We are going to move forward when we train ourselves to see that, how am I? I've been in situations where I would not consider it rape, but it's been rape. But have I been desensitized to think, or maybe I put myself in that situation, or maybe because if I did it, they would like me, or if come on. There's a breakdown, and it takes time. This deep-seated emotional wounds to have to try to heal and climb out of, and every day is a struggle. Added to what else is going on, racism, colorism, all this other stuff. It's exhausting. Then we are left with shells of what God intended us to be. I look forward to our next discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm actually this hit me from so many angles that it's been very hard for me to talk. So as a person, as a man, I had to come to the realization that I didn't have no value in myself. So it was impossible for me to commit to somebody. So I hurt a lot of people, right? Then going through the experience of having somebody that was sexually abusing, having to build them up, and at the same time question half of the things you have done in your life. As men, a lot of the time we don't realize that we're not taught to be men, and we have to go back and redefine the definition of what a man is and the value that we have within ourselves. And for me, it took me 2 years to be able to actually look at myself back in the mirror and be proud of the person that I saw, right? Because my whole life, and where I'm from, I'm Liberian as well, is it's like they look at a man that's promiscuous and call him a homo joy. It's something that's praised. So therefore, you go your whole life to where sometimes fooling these females just to sleep with them, so you can't brag about it, so you can have bragging rights, and you don't see the damage that you're doing even as a man. And I've done that countless amount of time. I have broken countless amount of people's pride just off of the simple fact that I didn't value myself. Um, so a lot of the times when we look at just sexual violence, when we look at sexual abuse, there's some that are glorified based on just the simple way that it's marketed to us. But when you sit down internally as a person, you start just actualizing it. You start realizing that you yourself, you was part of the problem. And what are you going to do moving forward to try to solve it? And that's the hardest conversation for most individuals to have with themselves. Because a lot of people like to victimize or look at it from the victim perspective, but never as the abuser perspective, because they may not see what they did as abuse, right? And I started realizing that if I have the understanding and the next person don't, but I may like the way she looks, so therefore I just want to lay with her to get the experience. That in itself is abuse, and a lot of guys do that on a daily basis. You cannot see a female that may not have the full comprehension because she may like the way you look, the car you drive, the way in which you present yourself, and you utilize that as a means to take advantage of her because she don't have the necessary esteem. So there's so much I have learned. And when I started going through this whole phase, and it took me a while to actually change, and Ye could contest to this. So it took me a while to actually change. But when I realized I have gotten to a different place was when, even when I engaged in activity, it was empty. There was no fulfillment. And that's when I realized I was changing and taking that and now start educating other people. So what I have realized is, look, a lot of the time is having honest conversation, especially men. Because a lot of the guys don't see the wrong that they do, because the conversation that men's have, it's like we glorify things we're not supposed to glorify. We communicate things that are supposed to be private. We disrespect females in ways because we feel that makes us men. And not realizing it's the funniest thing that I teach my boys. And one of the things that I tell my boys, I said, a female don't commit herself to you. She commit herself to your value. And your job as a man is to make her commit to your value. So all you have to do in life is work to create a value that allow us to want to attach herself to you. So you are not the man without her. See, so it's like the create. I never used to think like that. So for me, it was like, if I sleep with 10 women this week, I'm the man, right? Like sleeping with one person is boring. Like don't make sense. What commitment needs to be there? But just sitting here and talking and just listening to everybody's experience, I realized that I'm happy I went through the transition to be able to actually sit down and have these conversations. Because, like honestly, I was part of the problem. I was part of the problem. I was part of the problem in a way in which people didn't see. And then when you now start seeing that maybe these other guys think like this, and if somebody was able to like put in some value in them for them to start looking at life from a different perspective, they may have. So I definitely look forward to part two, and I'm gonna make sure emotionally I'm ready to at least talk about it more in depth, and especially my Hopo as well. So at least to get some kind of insight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He said something at the end that we always tease him about. But thank you, everyone. This has been, my gosh, it's been enlightening and it's been so dynamic. It's been real talk. Um, I'm trying to wrap up. So bear with us, audience, please. It has it has touched it has touched me it has touched me greatly. I grew up in a home with a very strong upbringing in terms of having both parents and having a father who was like Stan. He'll cut you if you come near his girls. And love can attest to that. He literally will cut you if you come near any of his kids. And I'm talking about if you touch their hair before I say anything else. So sometimes we don't realize certain things going outside of that cycle until you start to get out of it and see like, oh, this is not functioning like that in every home, right? And all of us have had experiences that we could consider sexual violence in a way, whether it was a cat call, whether it was, you know, like back home, for instance. I know at a point in time, the medical professions, there were people who were giving girls exams that they should not have been giving them at that particular age as a man. And it wasn't even called for. And I brought that conversation up with a lot of people, young girls who went through that, and they didn't see it as assault, but it was assault. You have a young girl show up at age 12, and you are doing some exam that does not even you're doing a premature pap smear. That it's not even time yet for her to get a pap smear. You're not an OBGYN to even do that, right? So we all have been exposed in so many ways that we can even say, like some of us, like I would always say, like sometimes you the family dynamics may teach you, okay, this, and then you start to interact with other people, and that can even shift our culture, can even shift people who grew up learning that this is right. Peer pressure can even start to shift people's perception or people's attitudes. So we have a lot of work to do, and I just thank you all for coming on here today. I can't wait for part two. I can say it was really hard for me to even get started because this is such um, a topic that it touches a lot of people, touches all of us, and this is something that actually occurred even to people I know, people I mentor, people I hugged because it happened. So as we even discuss this, those images are going through my head in terms of, oh, this person went through this and that person went through this and so forth. So I just want to say to all of you on here, thank you so much. I'm so grateful you honor to come on this table and just have this conversation. And thank you for devoting your time. You could have been doing anything else today, but you chose to set this time aside to come on and just have this conversation. And we're not doing it justice. It is a series, to be honest. We are not doing it justice. My sister said, you're gonna go over the hour. I said, we have to keep it to an hour, and we're an hour 27 minutes. And so we're not doing it justice at all. But it's a start. It is a start. It's the start of the conversation. And I'm so happy for the work you're doing in your perspective areas. Thank you so much. May God bless you for that. Thank you. I know in our private chat, Love actually said, I will counsel anyone pro bono. So if you are watching this and you need to speak to someone, I don't care if you're in Liberia. Look, we are digitally operating now. So I don't care if you're in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Sudan, Timbuktu, let's say Wakanda. Hey, I don't care where you are. If you need to I know. There we go. See, a couple of people got that. I don't care if you're in Wakanda, right? You can reach out to our Rock Africa inbox. If you're not comfortable reaching out to our Rock Africa inbox, you can reach out to Yeto McIntosh inbox, and I will connect you to Love Weir. You can also send an email to us. You can send an email to PR at irockafricahub.com, and it's PR at irockafricahub.com. If you feel like that is going to a public box and you want to reach out to someone privately, here is my private email address, yeatomcintosh@gmail.com. yeatomcintosh@gmail.com. And we will connect you to the resources you need. So I know you're going to see this funny smiles on the thing. We're just trying to get a shot, okay? So bear with us. We all kind of smile like, we're whatever. And our team is actually going to do a shot. I think Wafame's who's gonna do the shot? Let's get a shot before we go offline because we have ruffled this. We need a shot indeed. So I'm going to tell them, please take a shot when we smile so they know that we need a shot to keep. Okay, so on the count of what, three? You see, oh, can you do that? Am I doing it right? Am I in? I don't even know if I'm in. No, that's not happening. Okay, it's a go. Okay, that's not happening. It's not looking the right way on screen. Okay, one, two, three. I'm still not in. I'm still not in the. Okay, well, I'm not in the screen because of how my computer is, but I'll do this. I'm still not there. So, okay, so on the count of three, three, four, I went 3, 2, 1, and smiles. Oh, I think HJ smile did not work. So we're doing it again. 3, 2, 1, and smiles.
Did they get it? Because we're a mess.
I'm waiting for them to text me, and I I just don't see it. So hopefully they got it.
I got one. So I think we're
I'm
good.
looking at my phone like, can you text me and say yes? But this smile will go away.
My teeth are hurting.
So thank you.
Like I don't have Vaseline on my
My-
teeth, ladies. I can't keep this smile too long.
I know. We can really go along. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to our viewers. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing. Follow our Rock Africa. Follow all our Daughters in America. Follow all of the projects. You see, thank you. We are going to post about all these panelists more and more. We're going to blog about the panelists on our Rock Africa, so you'll be able to follow what they are doing as well. And thank you so much, everyone. So we are going to sign off, and may you have a good rest of the day. Thank you.